So my name is Teiwaz Lewis. My trail name is Spirit Wing. I've been doing this working in the wilderness therapy industry, for about 10 years now. I've worked for several different programs here at Red Cliff. Before that I was at Legacy. Before that I was at Wingate Wilderness Therapy. And before that I worked at Trackers Earth in Portland. And then before that I was also at Wingate. And I got my start at Wilderness Quest by Larry Wells. And yeah, I've been doing it. I've been doing it for the majority of the last 10 years, different programs, and I love it.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you were talking about like what you see as the sort of principal function of wilderness therapy in the student's experience.
Right. Yeah, I think that wilderness therapy is a catalyst to help give young people a ceremony and an experience of a rites of passage. In our society today, I don't think that we have a whole lot of ceremonies, rituals, experiences for young people to cross this threshold into adulthood. And when I look at society as a whole, and I look at doing this for as long as I have, that's one major commonality that we do, is we help to facilitate and guide young people into adulthood and what that means. Not that long ago, all nations and cultures, nationalities all over the world, were still doing that. That was a prevalent part of their culture and their society. Last like 100 years, not so much anymore. There's been a lot of major changes. And one of those things about the rites of passage into adulthood is that I think that we definitely do in wilderness therapy, and why it's growing, why it's so effective, is because we provide that experience. And so we really help to initiate young people into the inner mysteries of life and help them see that everything in life is encrypted and imbued with this hidden knowledge, and that especially for each one of them, and that each one of them is important, and that each one of them, they're called to that hero's journey in a specific way that only they can answer. And each one of them has a very specific role and an experience in following through and offering to the world something unique that each person, each client, each student can give to the world. Nobody else can give but them, each person.
So who facilitates that experience?
I would say the biggest facilitator, most of the heavy lifting, is done by the wilderness. Nature's huge. It's something that we all have in common. We all live on this planet. Everything that we have and we are a part of, not just physically but internally, comes from this planet. And so to me, the biggest advocate, the biggest character, the biggest teacher is themselves, spirit, however you want to describe that, and nature and the wilderness. And we need that. They need it.
Mm-hmm. So one understanding of education is it's not actually putting knowledge in, it's extracting that knowledge from the person, or it's revealing that knowledge from the person. So why does nature do that so well?
Nature invites, nature encourages. I would say nature is sort of this provocative teacher where all the knowledge is already there, and it invites us to actually go within ourselves and to really understand these mysteries. And so it does it sometimes in a gentle way, sometimes not. Sometimes, the clients might say a less than favorable way. But there's a seed in all of us. This is what I think. This is what I found. There is a seed. And we as guides, we don't make that seed grow. As guides, we do our best to till and water that soil so that seed has no choice but to grow. And that seed is surrounded and a part of nature. And so, in conjunction with nature, what we do is we help that seed grow in them that has maybe been dwindling or not growing at all, or that it's already bloomed and it's starving. And so, to me, we are guides. We're facilitators in conjunction with nature. And yet, I guess to answer your question, that's to me a big part of what we do, and nature does most of it, but they come in oftentimes with the fear of nature, or they're intimidated, or they become completely, disconnected from it. And when you become that disconnected from the natural world, you lose so much of your sense of self and so much of the foundation of who we are and what we're connected to. So, in a nutshell, that's how I would describe it.
Yeah. So you talked about your notebooks, your journals, as being a part of your development, your learning.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what is the role of the journal to a wilderness instructor, a guide, in your own development.
I started journaling probably about 10 months to a year into it, and it was an invitation from somebody who was very close to me that I should do that. I started journaling in my first walkabout, which brought me into wilderness therapy. For me, it's a way to look back on the experiences, and I can grow. I can reflect on something. Maybe I have a hard time believing something happened, but I know that what I wrote down in that journal actually happened. It's also a way to make my thoughts and my feelings more clear, not just in the future, not just in the past, but also in the present while I'm doing it. There's a lot of successful people now and in ancient times. I can look at Marcus Aurelius, and I like to read his work and his philosophy. And he wrote a tremendous amount of journaling, and that I don't think ever intended to have it read by people.
Mm-mm.
But those are oftentimes the books and the writings of Thoreau as well, Walden, that really stick with me, that resonate in the marrow of my being. So for me, when I start doing that, it not only helps me in the moment, it not only helps me connect with my own sense of self and find words for it better, but it affects my memory as well. And it also is a way of being like, well, what do I want to say? What do I want to remember? How do I want to put this into context? I draw a lot, so for me, there's a lot of drawings in there as well. But it's mostly for me just to go back and reflect on and maybe do something with someday. But I've been surprised that sometimes I'll be journaling and I'll forget about something and I'll go back and read some insight and I'm like, did I write that? And it helps me. It like brings me back. And for me, after doing things for a while, sometimes I can kind of lose context. So for me, it really grounds me and brings me back to like always being that student, remembering where I came from, and not having that get bogged down.
Yeah. It's one way that we bring wilderness out of the wilderness with us, right? Like when I meet students in the wilderness, I want to capture who they are so that when they speak to me, they remember who they are. And our journals do that for us. Yeah. Who would you be as an instructor if you had not been journaling all this time?
Who would I be? That's a great question. Well, definitely somebody else, of which I can only really imagine. I would be somebody who probably lost hold of his center and his context and his purpose a little bit. I probably would have gotten off on some tangents or some other things that I don't want to say would not have served me, but would not have been what my original purpose was. So I would say journaling helps me remember why I started in the first place. It helps me remember where I'm going. And in really hard, grim, uncertain times, I can go back and I can read them and they inspire me.
Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe. The Primitivus Project is made possible by the generous sponsorship of Wingate Wilderness Therapy. To learn more, visit wingatewilderness.therapy.com.